been warning for a very long time about the risks and threats posed by China. The government says that national security is its #1 priority. How would you describe what the government has done today?
Well, the government clearly can't count. If this is the #1 priority, God help us. This is a giveaway to China. He was asked in the chamber just now, the minister, can you tell us whether this agreement to have this embassy makes Britain more secure or less secure? Yes or no? And he couldn't answer it. He waffled around it. He wouldn't answer that question. He was asked it 2 or 3 times. He couldn't say it makes us more secure. All of these things they say from the security services saying, we can cope with this, and they're all about coping. And then that's marginal, because their statement today says, well, we can't stop everything that takes place that damages the UK. So coping means it's not better, it's worse, but somehow not as bad as you say it's going to be.
Picture this. Your house is currently on fire. The curtains are ablaze. The cat is looking for a fire exit. And your roommates are currently brawling in the kitchen over who left the toaster on. Do you grab a bucket of water? Do you call the fire brigade? No, if you are Sir Keir Starmer, you pack your silk pyjamas, grab your passport and hop on a private jet to Beijing. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. While the Labour Party descends into a level of internal carnage not seen since the days of the 18th century duels, our Prime Minister has decided that now is the perfect time for a bit of a Far East getaway. It is a bold strategy, fleeing the country while your own MPs are sharpening their knives, and Nigel Farage is practically redecorating the constituency of Gorton and Denton in Reform UK light blue. We are looking at a leadership crisis so profound it makes a Greek tragedy look like a light-hearted sitcom. The King of the North has been snubbed. The Health Secretary is allegedly measuring the curtains in number 10, and Keir is heading to China to talk about trade while his own party trades insults at home. It is unbelievable, it is chaotic, and frankly the whispers in the corridors of Westminster are growing into a roar. Is it time for him to resign? Quick favour, if you're loving this, hit that subscribe button. Over 92% of viewers haven't yet. It's free, takes a second and means the world to us. Thanks, if you did. Now back to the show. Let us talk about the optics, shall we? Because in politics, optics are everything. And right now, Keir Starmer's optics are about as clear as a London fog in the middle of November. On Monday, he was standing in a health centre in Wimbledon, trying his absolute best to look like a man in control of his destiny. By Tuesday, he is jetting off to China. Now, usually, a Prime Minister visiting a global superpower to boost trade is standard operating procedure. It is the bread and butter of the job. But doing it 24 hours after you have effectively declared war on the most popular man in Northern England, that is not diplomacy. That is a tactical retreat. It is the political equivalent of, look, a squirrel, while your car rolls off a cliff. Starmer claims he is going to Beijing and then Japan to secure our economic future. Splendid. Fantastic. We all love a bit of international commerce. But back in the reality of the British Isles, the Labour Party is currently engaged in a civil war that would make the Wars of the Roses look like a polite disagreement over a game of croquet. The decision to block Andy Burnham from standing in the Gorton and Denton by-election has sent shockwaves through the party that no amount of Chinese investment can dampen. While Keir is practicing his Mandarin and learning which way to bow, his backbenchers are practicing their no-confidence letters. It is a stunning display of head-in-the-sand leadership. He is literally putting thousands of miles between himself and the people who want his head on a silver platter. The timing is so suspicious, it is almost comical. He defends the decision to block Burnham on Monday morning, and by Tuesday afternoon he is at 35,000 feet. It is the ultimate ghosting. He has left the country to be managed by his deputies while the fire he started continues to burn. Critics are calling it a fleeing to Beijing, and it is hard to argue with them. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. To the airport, apparently. The Prime Minister might think he can outrun the drama by flying across several time zones, but the ghost of the Manchester Mayor is already waiting for him in the headlines. Let us look at why this Burnham blockage is the catalyst for the current meltdown. So, why did the National Executive Committee, the shadowy cabal that runs the Labour Party's internal plumbing, decide to tell Andy Burnham to jog on? According to Sir Keir, it is all about the resources. He stood there in Wimbledon looking the cameras dead in the eye and explained that triggering a mayoral election in Manchester would divert our resources away from the elections we must have. He is talking about the May locals, the Welsh Government elections and the Scottish Government battles. He wants us to believe that the Labour Party, a multi-million-pound organisation, cannot handle a by-election in Manchester without the whole deck of cards collapsing. It is a fascinating argument, isn't it? It is like a Premier League manager saying he cannot play his star striker because the club cannot afford the extra laundry bill for his kit. The mayoral election in Manchester costs about £4.7 million. In the grand scheme of the British economy, that is a rounding error. But Starmer is using it as a shield. He says we need all of our focus on the cost of living. Because nothing says focusing on the cost of living like flying a massive delegation to China while your own heartlands are in revolt. The truth, according to almost everyone with a pulse in Westminster, is far more cynical. They are terrified of Andy Burnham. They are afraid that if he gets a seat in the House of Commons, he becomes the immediate, undisputed alternative to Keir Starmer. He is the break glass in case of emergency leader. By keeping him in the Manchester Mayor's office, Starmer is keeping him in a gilded cage. It is a desperate attempt to prevent a leadership challenge before the May elections. But by doing so, he has created a martyr. He has turned a local by-election into a national symbol of Labour's internal control freakery. If Starmer thought blocking Burnham would bring peace, he clearly hasn't been paying attention to the man in the flat cap who is currently laughing all the way to the polling station.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I associate my party with the Prime Minister's comments about Remembrance Week and also his comments on Manfred Goldberg and Mervyn Kirsch, who is in the gallery today? Mr. Speaker, this morning on the BBC, the Health Secretary said there is a toxic culture in Downing Street that needs to change. He's right, isn't he?
If Keir Starmer is the man trying to keep the lid on a boiling pot, Nigel Farage is the man currently turning up the gas and whistling a tune. The Reform UK leader is absolutely delighted, and why wouldn't he be? He told reporters that Burnham would have galvanised the anti-Starmer vote and made it very difficult for Reform to win in Gorton and Denton. He even admitted that with Burnham on the ballot, Reform might have only come a good second. But now the path is clear. Farage says their chances have improved massively overnight. He is comparing the seat to Runcorn, a traditional, safe Labour heartland that is now feeling ignored and insulted by the London elite. By blocking the most popular northern politician, Starmer hasn't just snubbed Burnham, he has snubbed every voter in the north who feels that Westminster doesn't give a toss about them. He has handed Nigel Farage a golden ticket. Reform UK is no longer just a protest vote. In seats like Gorton and Denton, they are becoming the logical alternative for disillusioned Labour voters. Farage's logic is simple. Labour doesn't want the man you like, so why would you want Labour? It is a devastatingly effective message. While Starmer is talking about trade deals in Beijing, Farage is going to be on the ground in Greater Manchester talking about betrayal. The anti-Starmer vote is coalescing and it is wearing a Reform UK rosette. But the threat isn't just coming from the right. The most dangerous knives are often the ones being sharpened by the people sitting right next to you on the front bench. While Keir is away, the mice, or in this case, the Health Secretary, will play. Rumours are swirling through the corridors of power like a North Sea gale. West Streeting, the ambitious, media-savvy Health Secretary, has already had to deny that he is plotting to unseat the Prime Minister. But in politics, a denial is often just the first step of a press release for the job you are about to take. A well-placed Westminster source told The Express that Streeting could move against Starmer as soon as this week, while the PM is abroad. Can you imagine the drama? Keir is sitting in a high-level meeting in Beijing, trying to discuss semiconductor tariffs, and his phone starts buzzing with news that his health secretary has just gathered enough signatures for a leadership challenge. The source said Starmer's position is untenable now. It's going to happen sooner rather than later. The untenable tag is the kiss of death in British politics. Once that word starts being used by your own side, you are essentially a ghost haunting your own office. Streeting represents a different flavour of Labour, perhaps a bit more new Labour sheen, a bit more aggressive in the media. He has been the target of briefing wars for months, with Starmer's loyalists trying to paint him as overly ambitious. But when the Prime Minister's authority is crumbling, ambition stops being a vice and starts being a job application. If the May elections look like a bloodbath, the party won't wait for Starmer to return from his next holiday. They will act, and they might act while he is still over the Pacific Ocean. The Prime Minister likes to say the battle of our times is between Labour and Reform, but he is ignoring the battle happening in his own backyard. Let us check in on the man at the centre of the storm. Andy Burnham is a master of the understated burn. Following the decision to block him, he appeared at the Whitworth Art Gallery in Manchester to launch a report called Class Ceiling. The irony was thick enough to cut with a knife. Here is a man talking about how the working class are blocked from the arts, while he himself is being blocked from Westminster by his own party's glass ceiling. He was brief with the press. "I have said everything that I needed to say," he remarked as he entered a lift. It was the ultimate, "I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed" move. But earlier, during his speech, he couldn't resist a quip. He joked that he had read every single word of the report because he had nothing else to do this weekend. It was a punchy one-liner that let everyone know exactly how he felt about the NEC's Sunday meeting.
Mr. Speaker, what we heard the Health Secretary say this morning was that he wants to cut waiting lists, but we all know that there's only one waiting list that he really wants to cut. But the Prime Minister is not going to do anything about the toxic culture. This is his responsibility. Just last night, his allies accused not just the Health Secretary, but the Home Secretary and even the Energy Secretary of launching leadership bids. These attacks came from Number 10, nowhere else, his toxic Number 10. The person responsible for the culture in Number 10 is his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney. Does the Prime Minister have full confidence in him?
Burnham isn't going away. He said he is getting on with his job now, but in the world of Andy Burnham, getting on with the job usually involves making life very difficult for the people in London who try to tell him what to do. He is staying in Manchester, he is staying popular, and he is staying ready. He doesn't need to fly to China to find his influence, he just needs to walk down Deansgate. By sidelining him, Starmer has ensured that every time the Prime Minister fails, the cameras will immediately pan to Andy Burnham for a reaction. It is a self-inflicted haunting. To truly understand the depth of this betrayal, we have to look at the room where it happened. We are not talking about a full democratic vote of the Labour Party membership. We are talking about a 10-strong group from the National Executive Committee, the Officers Group. These are the gatekeepers, the high priests of the Labour rulebook. And on that fateful Sunday, Sir Keir Starmer himself sat among them to cast his vote. Think about that for a second. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom took time out of his schedule, presumably between packing his travel adapters for Beijing, to personally vote against a colleague. It was 8-1, 8 votes to block, 1 vote to allow. The lone voice of reason? Lucy Powell, the deputy leader. Even the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, who chairs the NEC, had to abstain to keep up the appearance of neutrality. It was a clinical, cold-blooded execution of a political ambition. The NEC cited Chapter 5, Clause 4.2 of the rulebook. It sounds like something out of a boring tax manual, but it is effectively the trapdoor they used to drop Burnham. They argued that because Burnham is a directly elected mayor, he needs express permission to run for Westminster. By denying that permission, they didn't just stop a candidate, they invoked a bureaucratic technicality to silence a rival. It is the political equivalent of a referee blowing the whistle for a foul that nobody saw, just as the star player is about to score the winning goal. The fans are screaming, the players are livid, but the referee has the rulebook and a very firm grip on his whistle. This bureaucratic manoeuvre has set the stage for a rebellion that is rapidly moving from the grumbling stage to the full-blown mutiny stage. 50 Labour MPs, let that number sink in. That is nearly a quarter of the Parliamentary Labour Party, essentially signing a declaration of independence from Keir Starmer's leadership. This is not a fringe rebellion. We are seeing names on that list that would normally be considered loyalist, or at least constructive. They have told the Prime Minister that blocking Burnham is a real gift to Reform UK. And they are right. In their letter, they argued there was no legitimate reason for the block. They called for an immediate re-evaluation. They are pointing out the blindingly obvious that in a by-election triggered by the tragic ill health of Andrew Gwynn, you need the strongest possible candidate. And who is stronger in Manchester than the man who has run the place for nearly a decade? By choosing control over competence, Starmer has signalled to his own MPs that his personal survival is more important than winning seats. The signatories are terrified that this London stitch-up narrative is going to stick. And once a narrative sticks in British politics, it is harder to get off than a cheap bumper sticker. They see the polls. They see Labour falling behind in Wales, struggling in Scotland, and getting hammered in the locals. They know that if they lose Gorton and Denton because they ran a safe candidate instead of a popular one, the public will never forgive them. The letter is a warning shot across the bows of the HMS Starmer, and the captain has responded by ordering the ship to sail straight for China. As the MPs fume, the local activists are starting to wonder if their hard work is being traded for a few days of quiet in Downing Street. Let us revisit that £4.7 million figure. Starmer says it is too much to spend on an unnecessary mayoral election. It is a classic sensible argument designed to appeal to the average taxpayer. But let us look at the logic. He says resources, money and people need to be focused on the elections we must have.
Westminster is awash with rumours tonight of a possible challenge to Sir Keir Starmer's leadership. Robert's sources have been telling him that plotters are out to get the Prime Minister and his Chancellor Rachel Reeves. So strong are the rumours that the Health Secretary Wes Streeting's spokesperson has put out a statement saying any claims that he's involved are completely untrue. In the life of a Prime Minister, and in particularly a Chancellor, there's never a good time for such rumours, but 2 weeks before a budget is worse than most because of the potential impact, of course, on the bond prices and on the cost of government borrowing.
But surely winning a by-election in a heartland seat is an election you must have. If you lose Gorton and Denton, the resources you saved on a mayoral race will look like a very poor investment indeed. It is like a man refusing to buy a new tyre for his car because he wants to save money for a holiday, only to have the car crash on the way to the airport. The saving is an illusion. Furthermore, the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, not the Labour Party, pays for the mayoral election. So the party resources argument is really about activists and campaigners. Starmer is essentially saying that Labour's ground game is so weak, so stretched, that it cannot handle 2 elections in the same region. That is a staggering admission of organisational failure for a party in government. If you cannot mobilise enough people to win a mayoralty and a parliamentary seat in your own stronghold, then what exactly have you been doing with your resources for the last 2 years? The Prime Minister is trying to frame this as a choice between essential work and political drama, but the drama is of his own making. And speaking of drama, let us look at the Health Secretary in waiting. If Keir Starmer is the embattled king, Wes Streeting is increasingly looking like the Duke of Anjou, waiting for the right moment to make a claim. The rumours of a Streeting plot are reaching fever pitch. While Keir is in Beijing, Streeting will be the one facing the media, the one answering the tough questions and the one looking prime ministerial on the morning rounds. Westminster insiders are saying that Streeting has a group of 50 frontbenchers, yes, another 50, who are ready to walk if things go south after the May elections. A spokesman for Streeting called the claims categorically untrue, but in the language of the lobby that usually means we haven't decided on the exact date yet. Streeting is a natural salesman, as one commentator put it. He believes in himself, and more importantly, he looks like he believes in the party's future. The contrast is becoming painful. You have Starmer, who looks like he's constantly preparing for a difficult HR meeting, and you have Streeting, who looks like he's ready to lead a charge into battle. By staying abroad this week, Starmer has left the field open for Streeting to dominate the news cycle. It is a gift to an ambitious rival. While the cat is away, the Wes will play, and the play might involve a very polite, very public distancing from the Prime Minister's Burnham blunder. The tension in the Cabinet is palpable, and it is all leading to one date, February 26th, the day the voters of Gorton and Denton get to speak. This by-election has become the most important political event of the year. It was triggered by Andrew Gwynn, a man who served his constituency with distinction but had to step down due to health reasons. It should have been a moment for Labour to celebrate his legacy and usher in a new era. Instead, it has become a battlefield. With Burnham out, the race for the Labour nomination is down to local councillors like Bev Craig and Julie Reid. They are competent, they are local, but they aren't stars. They don't have the King of the North magic. And in a by-election, magic matters. It drives turnout. It keeps people from wandering over to the Reform UK stand. Nigel Farage is already planning his victory lap. He knows that without Burnham, the Labour campaign will be defensive, dull, and dictated from London. He is going to hammer the betrayal angle. He is going to tell the people of Manchester that Keir Starmer thinks they are too expensive to have a vote. He is going to tell them that the Labour Party cares more about its internal rules than their external reality. And for many people, that message is going to ring true. If Reform UK wins, or even comes within a few hundred votes, the Starmer must resign chorus will become an anthem. The Prime Minister thinks he can fly away from his problems. He thinks that a trade deal with China will make everyone forget about the civil war at home. He is wrong. We have to ask the question, can Keir Starmer survive this? He is currently navigating a triple threat. First, the internal rebellion of 50 MPs. Second, the external surge of Reform UK. And third, the looming leadership challenge from within his own cabinet. Any one of these would be a challenge. All three at once? That is a political death sentence. The resource argument has been exposed as a flimsy excuse for factional warfare. The China trip has been framed as a cowardly escape. The Burnham block has been labelled a stitch-up. Starmer is losing the narrative. He is losing his MPs, and he is rapidly losing the public. When your own senior figures are secretly expecting to lose a safe seat, the writing isn't just on the wall, it is being projected in giant neon letters over the Houses of Parliament. If Gorton and Denton falls to reform, or if the May elections are the disaster that everyone predicts, there will be no way back for Sir Keir. He will have proven that he cannot lead his party, he cannot win over the North, and he cannot manage his own rivals. The King of the North might be blocked for now, but the King of Westminster is looking more like a figurehead every day. The calls for his resignation are not just noise, they are the sound of a party realising it has taken the wrong path. As we watch the Prime Minister's jet disappear into the clouds, we are left with a party in turmoil and a country wondering who is actually in charge. The civil war is here, the knives are out, and the countdown to February 26th has begun. Thank you for watching.